Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Yeah, I felt like I had everything working tonight. I actually was getting my curveball over for a strike to start off a lot of batters, which I haven't done in the past. So, I think that was very helpful for me tonight.
We're sitting here 37-11. Our team ain't broke. And I'm not going to certainly abandon ship just because we struggled scoring runs in the last 4 or 5 games. I'm not going to throw kids over the bus that have gotten us into this position.
Hey, Chad, you did win last night. Don't forget, you won 3-1. It wasn't a loss last night, but Chad Holbrook had some interesting things to say after the Gamecocks win over Presbyterian last night. We'll let you hear some comments from him a little bit later on. Also, Jerry Myers will join us live, USC pitching coach, at 7:14 to talk about his arms, getting ready for Texas A&M coming into town this weekend to face the Gamecocks. Last home SEC series for USC. It's a big one between 2 top 10 teams. Welcome in Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornbluth, the professor, Tom Hayes, and Carson Mason behind the bulletproof glass where she belongs, taking your phone calls, spinning the dials, making sure everything works smoothly. 800-956-7266, the number, and our email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at sportstalksc. Clemson and College of Charleston, we were here last night. Charleston had a 4-0 lead.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, Clemson's got them right where they want them, knowing how the Tigers play. And they came back to score 13 unanswered runs and won that game. So they're playing again right now at Doug Kingsmore, game 2 of that 2-game series. They're in the 7th inning, and it is a 3-1 Charleston lead. So, again, the Cougars out to the early lead. They scored 3 unearned runs, 2 Tiger errors in the 3rd, led to 3 unearned runs, a 3-0 lead for Charleston. Clemson got a run back in the bottom of the 3rd to make it 3-1. That's where it stands now. So you got to say again, Clemson's got them right where they want them.
Well, the interesting thing is, obviously, some people say, well, it's the way they do things. But then again, it might explain that their hitters come up there with a good plan when they see the pitcher the first, second time around. And then they're ready to hit them. So I think that shows that they're resilient, and they saw what they did maybe early in the game and didn't score any runs, and say, look, I know what this guy is throwing. I'm going to look for this pitch. I'm going to look for that pitch. And then they suddenly are successful. So there's a little method to the madness of being able to come from behind.
Great basketball last night. Russell Westbrook, I'm watching his performance, and I'm thinking, would you rather have Russell Westbrook, Stephen Curry, or I don't know who else as your point guard? Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul. Who would you want? Who would you take? No Curry. I know Curry's the MVP, but boy, Westbrook can do so many things.
Yeah, but Westbrook, what it does is Westbrook can drive the ball with reckless abandon. Other guy just guns from 40.
All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Your final word in sports every night in South Carolina. Your most informed, most intelligent, when I'm talking, your most handsome word in sports. And nobody will debate that, especially those watching us on video feed on our website. Don't forget the video feed. You can always watch us live or go back and see a show, listen to a show that you might have missed. No reason not to catch Sports Talk every night. Video feed at the bottom of the page, sportstalksc.com. By the way, have you voted in our poll question of the week at sportstalksc.com? If you haven't, then you should, because it's a good poll question and getting a heck of a lot of response. The question is, what is the must-win game this year? Out to the audience, if you want to share your pick over the air. Is it Vanderbilt, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Clemson, or, if applicable, a bowl game? What is the must-win game for the Gamecocks? 53.5% say Vanderbilt. Winning that first one is the must-win. 21.8% say Clemson. 13% say Georgia. 6% say Tennessee. About 2% say Florida. About 3.3% say a bowl game. So if you haven't voted yet, let your voice be heard. Our poll question of the week: what is the must-win game this football season for USC? I would think winning the opener will be huge for Will Muschamp and company. I think that will be a low-scoring game because Derek Mason is taking over Vanderbilt's defense. He's an excellent defensive coordinator. They're not going to have that much on offense. South Carolina's offense will be a work in progress. Their defense could be okay. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I would look for South Carolina to win simply because you got to pick South Carolina to beat Vanderbilt, for crying out loud. They'll probably walk away with something like a 17-10 kind of victory. Somehow manage to get 17 points on the board.
It's too early for me to say.
It's never too early.
Never
too early.
Every time you say low scoring and then somebody explodes. Yeah, I would give the Dabo Sweeney answer, and that is, this is the most important game. What? Because it's the one in front, Vanderbilt. And then the next most important game.
Has Dabo Sweeney become the face and the voice of college football? I guess not as long as Saban's breathing. But, if Saban is the face and the voice of football, has Dabo become the conscience of college football? Well, because, he's the one head coach, and there may have been others, but he's the one head coach who's come out and said, we're not doing the satellite camp thing. And you know what I like about that? It's like, I'm leading here, I'm not following. I don't have to follow what other people are doing, even though the rules allow it, and there might be some smidgen of an advantage here or there or some benefit. I'm not doing it. To me, it's more important to be on my campus and to have kids come to my campus and to my camp so we can see them and they can see us versus going helter-skelter or to Australia. I mean, how stupid is Jim Harbaugh becoming now? He's going down to Australia to hold a camp down there. I mean, he's making plenty of noise for himself, but he's not making a whole lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And, and what's happening, too, as I follow this stuff on the internet, is these goofballs who follow their teams. It's becoming news now when a team decides they're going to go to a satellite camp somewhere. Breaking news. Alabama is going to send 3 assistant coaches over to Hoover High School for a satellite camp. Woo! And it's just, it's just become the thing this spring, and it's really, I think, much to do about nothing in terms of what the bottom line impact is going to be.
Now, well, I think a lot of what we do now is just to show what we're doing on the internet and that sort of thing, to wow the fans is something new. Quite obviously, when you think about it, you could have contacts anywhere in the world that can find talent. Hasn't the last 2 of LSU's best punters come out of Australia? Apparently, they have some kind of connection with kids over there to play soccer and maybe Australian rules football, and they find their kickers over there.
I love Australian rules football. I love what the referees, or whatever you call them,
the white hats and
what
the
they
white coats
do down by the goalpost when a kick goes through. Kind of they kind of put up the six gun, put their fingers up in the air. It's just, that's good for Australia. Hey, look, any place where the water goes in a different direction, complete opposite direction. Isn't that right? The water flow in another direction. Or maybe they think the water flows in the wrong direction.
I thought that was an urban myth.
800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter @sportstalksc. A lot of ground to cover. Charleston scores a run in the 7th. It's a 4-1 Charleston lead over Clemson. Clemson has not lost a midweek game this season. So that is in jeopardy. 4-1. Charleston leading Clemson. 4-7-0 for the Cougars. They've left 4. 1-5-3. Clemson's ugly defense rearing its head once again. 4-1. The Tigers allowing a run in the 7th. Let me see if that run was unearned or not. Yep, unearned run. Another error by the Tigers, Lee. All the runs for the College of Charleston so far of the unearned variety. That's not going to make for a happy Monty Lee. We've got other baseball going on this afternoon, both in the majors and in college. A lot of college baseball this afternoon. In the ACC, Florida Gulf Coast beat Florida State 11-8 in 10 innings. LSU and Notre Dame are playing in the bottom of the 9th. That game is scoreless. They're going to play a second game later on today. Bottom of the 9th, LSU, Notre Dame scoreless. Duke beat Norfolk State 4-3 this afternoon. All right, that's it from the ACC. No SEC games going on this afternoon. In Major League Baseball, plenty of afternoon action for you. San Diego, let's see here. Where we got? San Diego beat the Cubs 7-4 at Wrigley. The Cubs are still 25-7. I think they would have signed up for that if you'd have asked them in February. Baltimore 20-12 beat Minnesota 9-2 this afternoon. Also in Major League Baseball, 8th inning, Seattle over Tampa Bay 5-4. In the 8th, San Francisco leading Toronto 4-3. They're in the 12th, going to the 13th. Cleveland and Houston tied at 3. Boy, the Astros have taken a dive this year, 13-21. Colorado leading Arizona 8-7, top of the 9th there. Texas has just beaten the White Sox. White Sox having a great year, but they lose today 6-5 to Texas. Braves tonight back in action, if you can call it that, at home against Philadelphia. Lost last night. Good pitching outing, but not enough offense. So the Braves are now, 1-16 at home?
Yeah, in fact, ironically, that ties the National League record for first 17 game at home. Guess who they're tied with? The Phillies. 1883, 1-16. But they don't have the worst start. There was one team that went 0-17 in 1913.
Yeah, I saw the same graphic. Let's see. What else I want to mention to you here? Marcus Lattimore. Well, the full story came out today on CBSSports.com by John Solomon. Yesterday we just had snippets off of Twitter. And so now he wrote a story. And, Lattimore, spin it how you want to, he did criticize South Carolina's strength staff to some degree, which is absolutely fine. You don't have to defend the guy, and he doesn't have to apologize. What he said, and this was an interview he did after appearing in front of the Night Commission, as quoted by John Solomon, talking about members of the strength and conditioning staff. Quote, "Some are brilliant. The ones I had in college were pretty good, but there were some on staff that, embarrassingly enough, I knew more than. I wouldn't say the head guy, but he has a staff of about 5 or 6 guys who I knew more about correct technique, running and lifting weights." So, that's fine. He is expressing his experiences at South Carolina. Not everything is going to be perfect in any situation. And what he's suggesting is you need to have more qualified people throughout the staff. We'll talk more about this in a moment. On Twitter, Tim Jones sends us a tweet and says, most wins at Turner Field this season, Arizona 3, the Mets 3. That's sad when visiting teams have more wins at your place than you do at this stage of the season. A couple of more runs put up by the Cougars. Make it 4 more runs in the 7th inning. It's now 7-1. Clemson commits another error. That's 4 errors.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're digging themselves a hole now that they're not going to be able to recover from this late. Top of the 7th, now 7-1 Charleston. Back to Marcus Lattimore. I mean, no one should be upset if Marcus Lattimore, Jadeveon Clowney, Sammy Watkins, any of these former guys are quoted as saying something that's not 100% positive about the situation that they had at their respective school. These are the experiences that they went through. And in being honest and talking to that commission, Lattimore just said basically there were some guys on the strength and conditioning staff that didn't know as much about what they were trying to teach as I knew, which he accurately points out is a dangerous situation for the athletes, not just at South Carolina, but he talked to other athletes as well who experienced the same thing. So his point is, have a better staff. Maybe the head guys are good and they know what they're doing, but down the line, assistants need to be better trained and have more knowledge about the subject of the body and the muscles and the nerves and the tissues and everything that comes into play when you've got that pulled hamstring and you got to get rehab for it. You better know exactly what exercises to put this guy through to get him healthy again.
And you talk and you're right about that, especially the guy, meaning everybody personally has a threshold. And maybe this works for this guy, but it doesn't work for this guy, but they have the same injury. So it's interesting. Now, there are some will tell you that some athletes are training too much anyway. Their bodies and their muscles are strengthened so much that the torque they put their joints through can't take it. The joints can't take it. And usually when you see a guy that's muscle bound and whatever, well, what goes? A lot of times it's a joint, elbow, knee, shoulders, knees. And who knows what the threshold is? I have no earthly idea.
It's up to each individual to know. All right, on to a couple of other things of great importance to us. Limestone named its new football coach, Mike Fury. What a great name for a football coach. Mike Fury, former NFL player, was the receivers coach at Marshall, also coached at Kentucky Christian as the head coach. He played for the Rams, Lions, Browns, and Redskins, an 8-year NFL career. So welcome to Gaffney. Valley High School has named its new head football coach, and he is Andrew Jenkins. He had been the offensive coordinator at Seneca, and now he is going to Midland Valley. And in basketball, our old buddy from South Carolina Basketball Coaches Association, John Combs, who's been the head coach at Ridgeview High School, is leaving to go to Ben Lippen as their head boys basketball coach. We'll be back. More sports talk coming up. Wednesday edition of Sports Talk. Busy show for you tonight. Some comments from Chad Holbrook coming up. Also, Jerry Myers, USC pitching coach, will join us here a little bit later. And bottom of the second hour, edition of SC Wild coming your way. Looking forward to having that for tonight here on Sports Talk. 800-572-66 the number. Recruiting coming up in a few minutes. And we'll be talking about 3 players who are visiting Clemson as transfers in basketball. Not 1, not 2, but 3.
Wow.
The Tigers are now involved with. Details on that coming up in a little bit. It is now 11-1. Charleston, boy, the Tigers are just folding like a deck of cards. An 8-run 7th inning for Charleston. Won't even begin to try to break it down for you. It's just been a long, miserable inning for Clemson. The Tigers have committed 4 errors in the game. Charleston has 11 hits, 8 runs in the 7th. They lead it 11-1, and they're going to come away with a win in this 2-game series. And what else did I want to mention to you? Oh, yes, D1 Baseball has their updated field of 64 as of today. And so, as of today, D1 Baseball projects South Carolina as a number 7 national seed, hosting Binghamton, North Carolina, and Long Beach State in the regional in Columbia. This is by D1 Baseball. Coastal Carolina is a number 2 seed playing in the Charlottesville, Virginia regional. Coach Gary Gilmore will be with us tomorrow night. Virginia Navy, Coastal Carolina, and Oregon State in that regional. And D1 Baseball has Clemson as a 2 seed in Oxford, Mississippi, with Ole Miss, Southeast Missouri State, Clemson against California. The top 8 seeds, Florida, Miami, Texas A&M, Louisville, Mississippi State, Texas Tech, USC, and Florida State. This is projection by D1 Baseball. Now, last night, Gamecocks had a hard-fought win over Presbyterian. Good ball game. Couple of home runs by Alex Destino. Taylor Widener, outstanding, 7 2/3. He struck out 12. Reed Scott came in, struck out 4. So Gamecock pitching struck out 16 hitters last night. Chad Holbrook, of course, talked about the win. Then he got into some other subjects as well, including talking about replacing Ray Tanner. He was asked a question about following in the footsteps of a legendary coach like Ray Tanner and dealing with those high expectations that the fans have for the Gamecock baseball program.
Chad, before you took this job, how much did you think about the reality of following Ray Tanner and more generally just the guy who did what Ray Tanner did in the job?
Honestly, I'm here because of Ray Tanner. I wasn't consumed or worried one iota about following him. You know, a lot that's for you guys and for the fans and say, oh, you don't ever follow a legend. Too big of shoes to fill. I just want to coach. I could care less who it's after or who it's before. Or, I mean, Ray Tanner taught me about everything that I know, and it's you know, I learned an awful lot from him. We talk daily, and I know that he understands what we go through on a daily basis, and I know he's appreciated the heck out of this team this year. And so, but I don't. I got to follow him, to be honest with you, because I got to learn from him, and without following him, I wouldn't have been able to learn from him. So actually, I consider that, you know, an advantage, honestly, because there's pressure to hear people say, was it pressure? You know, there's pressure if I follow Ray Tanner or follow anybody. South Carolina, if you coach anywhere in the SEC that's got a $40 million stadium and has had great success and great tradition, there's pressure. It doesn't mean who the coach was. There's going to be pressure. So I consider it a feather in my cap, to be quite honest with you, that I get to follow him, because he gave me a wealth of knowledge to go on. And I've never looked at that as a burden.
From a perception standpoint, do you feel like you and other guys who follow a guy who's done what he's done suffer in any regard, though? Or do you think about that
I
at
just
all?
do the best I can every day. And, you know, I've been lucky to be here 4 years. We had a tough year last year. I'm proud as heck of my first 2 years here. Last year was a struggle for me. And I'm sitting up here as, you know, extremely lucky to have coached this group this year. And the season's not over. And there's probably going to be some bumps along the way. But I'm proud of what they've accomplished and how they represented this school, both on and off the field, and the way that they've played. And, you know, so I learned a lot last year, and I think it made me more better prepared to coach here going forward. And because, you know, it's a privilege and honor to coach at a school that loves baseball, and the fans love baseball. You know, and we got 7,000-8,000 fans come to our games, and you know, there's some that get mad when you lose, but you know, that's okay. They care. And it's great to coach at this place that the people care. And because there's a lot of baseball programs out there that not many people care. And I'm lucky that I get to coach at a place where people have passion and care. And they get mad, You know what? They ain't madder than I am. I mean, they're sitting on their couch eating chips and drinking Cokes, and they're mad. We've invested every single ounce of energy we got, and we're a lot madder when we have a tough one. And but it's I'm awfully lucky one, to have learned and keep learning from Ray Tanner, and then two, that I get to coach at a great baseball program, a great university with people that understand the sport, and people and fans that are passionate about the sport. I'm awfully blessed.
All right, good stuff there from Chad Holbrook. And another comment from him. He was asked by, just a genius reporter.
Okay.
What's up with Brandon McElwain? When might the Gamecock fans get a chance to see him on the diamond once again?
He's been very good, and you know, and I've wanted to get him in there and get him some at bats, but the games have been too close, and I've been a little bit gun shy to do it, and he missed a lot of time. I mean, he wasn't here a lot, and I can't just throw him in there in front of TJ Hopkins, he's been here every day and produced some results. But Brandon's a great kid, and if you watch him in batting practice, you might wonder why I'm not playing him. But you know, when baseball's a funny game, and I'm not going to upset the apple cart too much in regards to the team, but Brandon's got a bright future playing baseball, and he's got a bright future playing here. I don't think one inch less of him because I'm not playing him. It just was a very inconsistent spring for him from a time here to be able to stay sharp. And then when we got to win, and then we got started winning, and you got to stay with those guys that have been, you know, that you've been winning with. And I wanted like crazy to a couple games to get him some cracks, and I certainly will if our next midweek game I can get a chance to get him some at bats. That's what I want to do, because honestly I want him in there versus a left-handed pitcher from time to time, a pinch hitter. You know, kid can hit him in the seats, but he needs opportunities to do it, and those have been hard to come by. But attitude-wise, ability-wise, talent-wise, I know why he's so highly thought of, and I want like crazy to be able to play him here as we go forward. But it was a learning experience for Brandon this year, going through doing both sports, and it was a learning experience for me. And I think we'll both be better at it, you know, next time around.
All right, Chad Holbrook, his comments on following Ray Tanner and dealing with the high expectations. And really, you know what? There should be no criticism of Chad Holbrook. I mean, come on. Yeah, you can criticize game-to-game decisions maybe, but look at the results. First place in the SEC, come on. Okay, they've gone to the top of the 8th. It's 11-1. College of Charleston over Clemson this afternoon. So the Cougars are going to get a split of that 2-game series up at Doug Kingsmore, and Tigers will get ready to go to Statesboro, Georgia this weekend for a 3-game series against Georgia Southern. 800-956-7266 is our number here on Sports Talk, and this message goes out to the College of Charleston because they're scoring big. You can score big with Founders Federal Credit Union. Founders has convenient office locations on the campus of USC and a new location coming soon to Clemson, plus ATMs on the campuses of Clemson, Converse, Limestone, Presbyterian, USC, USC Lancaster, Winthrop, and York Tech. Visit foundersfcu.com for a full listing to find an ATM or office near you. You're not a member? Well, visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA. USC softball team pulled out a thriller today in their first game of the SEC tournament. They were down 4-1 going to the bottom of the 7th.
I think it was top of the 7th. It
Whatever.
was 4-0.
To the last inning. Was it 4-0? They
4-0.
scored 4 runs to tie it. 3-run homer in the 8th to win it. Taylor Williams, 3-run homer in the 8th. And South Carolina beat Missouri today.
Missouri's ranked 15th in the country, too.
Yeah. So that's good for them. Speaking of women's stuff, the state newspaper reporting this afternoon that the SEC women's – what's wrong? I said women's stuff. And Carson's laughing. Speaking of women's stuff, I'm not talking about makeup and purses and high heels. I'm talking sports here.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I know when I say women's stuff, that's what comes to mind, not athletics. But trying to be fair and balanced. The SEC women's basketball tournament will be held in Greenville next year at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena. The Well, which was the home to Clemson basketball, men's basketball this past season. A source confirmed that to the state. The arena, the folks there put out a release today saying they had a major announcement set for Monday. So this is the major announcement. Rumors have been floating around for a while since the NCAA boycott of South Carolina ended that the tournament could end up in South Carolina. It was in North Little Rock, Arkansas for a year, last year in Jacksonville, Florida, going to Nashville in 2018.
Mm-hmm. And they've gone to that arena, outside of Atlanta? What's the town?
Gwinnett,
right.
yeah, they've been in that arena too. So this should be good for attendance with USC, the odds-on favorite to win the championship again with another powerhouse team coming up. So you can make plans for that during this upcoming basketball season. The NBA Draft Combine began today, and Jaron Blossomgame of Clemson is there. Of course, he is not signed with an agent, so he still has that final season of eligibility there. He will have just a few days. He'll have 10 days up till May 25th after the Combine to make a final decision on the draft. He's been working out for several teams here of late. He worked out for the Jazz earlier this month and the Celtics and the Cavaliers. And he's got, I know, the Lakers coming up on his agenda and others. So we'll see how he does at the Combine. Maybe after that, soon after, he'll have a better feel for what the NBA feels about him and if he thinks his game is ready to go to the NBA.
Yeah, the key point is last year we both sat here, and once we saw how much more consistent he was and comfortable with his outside shot, you could tell he was dangerous. In fact, I think there was an article in CBS Sports saying that he's one of the top 5 sleepers entering the Combine. And he's got the talent. There's no doubt about it. But, just selfishly, and for Clemson in the ACC, which I think they can make a move this year, you'd love to have him just one more year to play in the new arena they will have. And I'm not so certain that Brad Brownell might think Corn, at least for a big non-conference game, they played so well in Bon Secours. I mean,
Mhm.
might want to make that a second home and get those people in Greenville whet their appetites and see what happens down the stretch. But I thought they played well in Greenville. The one and only year they're doing it.
Well, you look at the Clemson's roster for next season, and boy, you would love to have a Drawn Blossom game on there. You know, the way City Jete came along, he's
Yes.
going to be a good player for them inside. And then you got the transfers becoming eligible. They're going to give them a boost. Boy, Blossom game would be that guy to really help them get over the top. All right, let's get to the recruiting knowledge here on a Wednesday night. We'll begin with basketball. You know, just looking over Clemson's roster, we've got the Tigers with Blossom game, 12 on their roster for this coming season, leaving them one available scholarship. They've got 3 transfers that they're actively recruiting. They might be thinking on their end that Blossom game's leaving them with 2 scholarships to play with. Now, the transfers coming in, first is today, David Scara, 6'8" forward from Valparaiso. You say Valparaiso.
I say Valparaiso. But
Yeah.
some people say Valparaiso.
Just call him Valpo.
Valpo, there you go.
Anyway, he's transferring, and he's at Clemson today. He's also been to Richmond, and he's drawing interest from Georgia Tech and TCU. He'd like to go to Vanderbilt, but Valpo has blocked him from following his former coach to Valpo. He has appealed that, and he's waiting on a ruling. He's a native of Croatia. Battled injuries last season, averaged 6.5 points, 3 rebounds. Best game came in the NIT semis. He scored 15 off the bench, hit the winning 3-pointer in a win over BYU. As a freshman, he averaged 5.4 points, 3.2 rebounds per game. Now, on Friday, the Tigers are to host 6'11" Chad Rycook, formerly of Baylor. He's going to go to Georgia Tech tomorrow, Clemson Friday. He's already been to Colorado. He's a native of Fort Worth, signed with the Bears in 2012, redshirted. Then he missed the next year because of injuries. Then on June 22nd, 2014, he announced he would no longer be a part of the Baylor team due to medical reasons. Apparently now healthy enough to give basketball a try once again. And 6'5" Dylan Smith who's coming off of a year at UNC Asheville in which he averaged 13.5 points per game as a freshman. And he's looking to take his game up to a bigger conference, and he said he'll visit Clemson one day next week. He said the Tigers offered a scholarship, and he should be going on a visit there sometime next week. He is at Arizona today, started a visit there last night. And he said he's as interested in Clemson as they are in him. He's going to take all his visits and weigh his options. He's also been to Virginia Tech. He's also looking at NC State, Texas A&M, and UConn for possible visits. He's a native of Alabama. 6'8", Keanu Pender of Hutchinson Junior College, Kansas, a USC target, has gone home to Australia. He made an official visit to USC last weekend, and he was at Arizona Sunday and Monday. He has also been to NC State, where his father played. According on Hoops, Presbyterian landed a commitment from 6'6" Javante Milner of Cummings, Georgia, and Tennessee offered 6'6" Zion Williamson of Spartanburg in the 2018 class. In football, USC target offensive lineman T.J. Moore of Charlotte, offered by Syracuse. Ohio State offered 2018 defensive lineman Josh Belk of Louisville. T.L. Hanna offensive lineman Tanner Lawson was offered by Western Carolina, his first offer. Wisconsin and Texas A&M offered Pendleton defensive end Brad Johnson. We got a little more to come after the break.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Up at Clemson, Tigers did score 3 in the 8th, but they are down 11-4 as they go to the 9th. 11-11-1 for Charleston, 4-6-4. Never good when your errors equal your runs. 4-6-4 for the Tigers. Let me wrap up the recruiting knowledge for tonight. I was giving you some offers. Wisconsin and Texas A&M today offered Pendleton defensive end Brad Johnson. USC today offered defensive end Chris Whitaker out of Hollywood, Florida. And USC has also offered 2018 wide receiver Sam Pinckney from Greenwood. Also, quarterback I was working with him on his last name pronunciation last night. Urich, that's what he says. Quarterback Jay Urich of Wren, getting more and more looks. Missouri was in to watch him. Is talking about an offer. Duke was in today. Also hearing from Tennessee, Boston College and Indiana have also been by. And South Carolina was one of the first schools in to see him. Of course, the Gamecocks have offered. They remain in regular contact. He says that from what South Carolina is telling him, they really want him. They really would like him to commit. He likes him a lot. He just wants to make sure he's making the right decision. So, not yet ready to move forward with the commitment. He'll make another visit to USC this summer. He'll also check out some other top schools. Other offers are Southern Miss, Coastal, Furman, Wofford, East Tennessee, Harvard, SC State, and Mercer. He does not have a timetable for a decision. All right, there you go, recruiting for now. And you can follow along in recruiting on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, use the hashtag #STRecruiting. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll have our visits from Captain Billy Downer in person with us tonight. We're going to talk fishing on SC Wild. You're an angler, aren't you, Pro?
No, I used to be. I'm not an angler though. I'm the country boy pond bait your hook fishing. Worms,
Did you
crickets.
use a rod and reel or just used a pole?
Well, you could use both. Rod, you would stick in the water, just lay in there in shallow water, and then you use a rod and reel where you cast, maybe looking for a pond where there's bass in it.
Did you guys have where I grew up, we had a favorite little area called Buck Swamp, about 2 miles outside of Latta, maybe a mile and a half between Latta and Dillon. And we'd walk out on the train tracks and go to the train trestle.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of dangerous, not very smart. Fortunately, the trains don't run through Latta hardly anymore, so we had plenty of time to get out of the way. But, drop down there in Buck Swamp and catch stripers. I think that's what we used to catch down in there.
Brim, maybe?
No, I don't think it's that fancy to have brim. I think just kind of like stripers.
No catfish?
Maybe some down in there. I don't know.
Catch an occasional turtle?
We'll ask Captain Downer if he's ever gone through Buck Swamp before. We'll be right back. And we're back. Sports Talk presented by the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird and the preservation of our hunting heritage by joining the NWTF. Find out how at nwtf.org/riseandfly. All right, up at the Doug Kingsmore. They're in the ninth. It's 11-4. College of Charleston leading Clemson. Last night, USC won a hard-fought game, well-pitched game against Presbyterian, 3-1. Now the Gamecocks get ready to play a very good Texas A&M team this coming weekend at Doug Kingsmore. Gamecock pitching coach Jerry Myers joining us here on Sports Talk. Coach, good evening. How you doing?
Good. We're going to play at Founders Park, though, not Doug Kingsmore.
Did I say Doug Kingsmore?
You did.
That would be breaking news if you guys were to do that.
It would be.
Founders Park. I know you're plenty happy there. Thank you for joining us. And Taylor Widener, last night, I know you saw from him maybe some things that you had been hoping to see from him all season long.
Yeah, he had a really good game. He was very consistent, especially after about the somewhere into about the third inning. He kind of found a very good groove and had a good rhythm going and had a good mix of good game plan of getting ahead and then using what was probably his best fastball he had, was able to maintain anyway in any one outing for a good stretch there that was very much needed as we were getting pitched really tough by a very solid PC team.
Yeah, absolutely. In the latter innings, what was he hitting on your speed gun?
He ran it up there up to 97 in the fifth inning. He finally actually picked up some steam in the third, fourth, and fifth, and kind of got in that really good groove that kind of set a tone that it was going to be difficult. Gave up a solo home run in there somewhere in the early to mid innings that was about all the good swings you could get off him, and pretty much stayed in control for the majority of the game. But he was 93, 94 early on, and like I said, he hit some 5s and 6s. That's a bump up from what he normally does.
Mm-hmm. Reed Scott came in, struck out all 4 that he saw. 16 strikeouts between your two pitchers last night. You got to like that.
It was good. It was on the other side of that is we didn't walk any and didn't give up anything free. No, didn't bounce any balls. Give a guy a free 90 when they did have some guys on base. We didn't have any of that. So again, it was a tight game, and that was what we needed to have, and we were fortunate to get it out of those two on the mound. So with the performance that he gave you last night, moving forward, I know you guys are now set pretty well with your weekend rotation, but how do you see Taylor figuring into things? Because at the start of the year, he was one of your top 3 guys. Right.
Performance kind of led him to have to drop down a little bit. But is he working his way back up with that kind of performance?
He's never been moved towards the bottom or anything like that. It's just how we're going to use him. We wanted to try to. He's got experience, and we wanted to try to keep him available for the weekends and some of the weekday starts when we didn't have him in the top 3 going on the weekend. Those were limited in terms of pitch count a little bit, so his availability would at least be by game 2 or 3 in the weekend series. And also played into that was the fact that he had 9 or 10 saves for us last year. He's been out of the bullpen, and if his stuff could play out like we felt like it could and like it did last night, that he'd be very valuable to give us some depth, no matter how we used him. And his versatility is there. Can he be put in a starting role at any point in time? Yes, so he's done that. Can we relieve him? I think he's comfortable doing that. So we have a couple guys that way that could spot start if we need them to, if we get into some kind of tournament format where we play multiple games in a short period of time, and hopefully that bodes well for our options moving forward.
Talking with Jerry Myers, USC baseball coach. So I know you got some regular season left, not skipping past that, but you also have to be thinking about postseason. So when you get into postseason play, and let's say you win some games in Hoover and you're still playing, Saturday, who are some guys that you can turn to in a starting situation that you may have to go to when you get into this postseason play?
Yeah, I mean, it's first of all, we're not really looking that far ahead or trying to put the cart before the horse or any of that type of deal. But you know, one of the things we've always tried to do is have some versatility, and we've got some guys in the bullpen that have started before Reed Scott started. You know, a handful of games in his 3 years here. Tyler Haswell has started some games. Brandon Murray, we ran out there for a start just because we had used him a lot in the pen as a freshman last year, and he's been in the pen obviously a little bit up and down this year, and he gave us 3 good innings in a short start last week. So there are some options there. Josh Reagan was a starter, and now you're obviously a short reliever. Tyler Johnson started some games last year, so there are some things that we could do, and that you see a lot of other people try to do as well. You want to hopefully have as many guys with a hot hand, or at least a consistent, solid run of performances, and hopefully they're versatile, that it doesn't bother them or phase them if you put them in a start having not done it in a while, or put them in the pen after they've been, you know, consistently starting for you. So that's what college baseball is about. You want to make sure you're groomed kind of to do that, especially down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. Talking with a USC pitching coach, Jerry Myers, as far as the closing role as you move on through the last part of the season in the postseason play, you mentioned that, you know, Johnson and of course Reagan. Is it still going to be by matchup, or in your mind, is one of them your absolute closer regardless of the matchup situation when you get into these most meaningful games?
Yeah, I don't think one of them is our absolute closer. We feel very confident and trust both guys. We trust Reed Scott. Reed Scott's an unsung individual on our staff that's given us some really big outs, whether it's just an out or two to get out of a big jam, to get to one of those 2 guys to get a little bit more notoriety. You know, Reed got a save last night, so it's a deal where there's some trust in some guys. Sometimes it's going to be a matchup, left-right thing towards the end. Some of it's going to be maybe how they came off their last outing, or what kind of gut feeling we have with the matchup in general with a certain lineup, that kind of thing. And you know, sometimes it even plays into it. What's the strike zone like, and what kind of team are they offensively in terms of their approach, and maybe one stands out as the others, maybe being the first guy to go out there in a short situation or towards the end, and the other one backing them up.
With your defense as good as it has been this year, you've only committed 32 errors. What do you say to your pitchers about letting the defense, play defense? Does that change the way that you call games and the approach you guys take?
Well, I mean, it's there for sure. It's not something that, we change the way we pitch a whole lot of that kind of thing, but it's a huge boost in confidence and trust when, it starts behind the plate, that balls will be blocked and balls will be received, and then we can stop the running game from that part, that component of it, and all those things that play into it. But as great as we've played day in, day out on the defensive side, our guys have a lot of trust in making pitches, and if they can put a ball on the ground and in the right spot, we're going to turn a double play. And Joe McBride's been outstanding at third base. Marcus Mooney, obviously, when we've played a couple different guys at second base with DC and now Stokes over there, there's been a lot more balls caught in the outfield as well, and we've closed gaps and made singles, kept them singles and instead of letting them turn into some doubles. So all those things are huge in terms of what we're able to do in terms of stopping some people from scoring.
Yeah, they've done a great job. Coach, want to hold you over just a couple of more moments. I want to talk to you about Texas A&M. I'm sure they're keeping you up late at night trying to figure out how to approach this lineup. Jerry Myers, Gamecock pitching coach, with us here on Sports Talk, and we will ask him about the Aggies in a moment. And we're back at Sports Talk, brought to you by the National Wild Turkey Federation, not the kind you drink, the kind you shoot. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird and the preservation of our hunting heritage by joining the NWTF. Find out how at nwtf.org/riseandfly. Back for a couple of minutes with USC pitching coach Jerry Myers. All right, Texas A&M rolling into town at Founders Park. Maybe you want them to go up to Doug King's more and
Yeah,
have somebody
maybe
else. But anyway, team batting average of 320. Obviously, up and down their lineup, they got hitters. What do you think?
Yeah, they're very well rounded. They've got left and right in their lineup that they can juggle a little bit, and then they can go left-handed heavy if they want, and turn it around with a couple other hitters and not lose anything from a production standpoint. I guess seven regulars hitting over 300 or close to over 310, all the way up to 440 with their third baseman, junior college or a transfer, I think, TCU. That's just been lights out offensively for them, leading the way. But they're good all the way around. I mean, they've played good defense. Their pitching is deeper than it was last year, and it was good last year. So they lost a few guys in their lineup, but they didn't miss a beat. They've actually, picked it up a notch in terms of some of the new guys that have come in, and they've been on a very consistent roll all the way around. So we're going to have to, of course, play our best and limit as much as we can of giving them opportunities to score.
Yeah, you look at their numbers, and it indicates that they don't have any real weaknesses in their offense. I mean, they're first or second in the SEC in practically every offensive category. And the other thing, too, is they don't strike out a whole lot.
Right, exactly. They don't strike out a ton. They don't walk a ton, but they'll walk a little bit. So that tells you they've got some play discipline. Obviously, I've watched a lot of games on video that we have cut up, and it allows us to go through their lineups and then see how some people have faced them, that kind of thing. So they're pretty disciplined at the plate, as aggressive and as much as they attack the baseball, they're pretty disciplined. So it's a tall task, and we've got some guys that are going to have to be at their best, and hopefully all the way around in all three phases. We can do what we need to do to match them and put ourselves in a position to win.
Well, it's going to be another marquee. You guys have had several marquee weekends around the SEC. This will be another one. Should be a great environment at Founders Park. And we thank you for the visit, and good luck this weekend.
Okay, Phil, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. All right, Jerry Myers, USC pitching coach.
They fared pretty well against some formidable bats against the Gators. So
Mhm.
we'll see how they do.
And this Texas A&M team, they fielded well too. Of course, they pitched it well. They had a no-hitter last weekend. They're number 2 in the country for a reason, and they're just a half game back of USC and Florida in the chase for the best record in the SEC.
When I look at the team, I guess I don't know if Mississippi State is getting the due they should, because they have not lost a series on the road this year. I like that team.
All right. Thank you to Coach Myers. Thank you, Pro. SC Wild coming up next.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
And welcome into this edition of SC Wild here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. And we are presented by the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird and the preservation of our hunting heritage by joining the NWTF. Find out how at nwtf.org/rise and fly. Captain Billy Downer, South Carolina DNR, with us in studio tonight. Good to see you again.
Great to be here.
How's the world treating you?
Been busy,
Yeah,
been watching and announcing a little softball,
Mhm.
and moving from this program on to another age in life, trying to do announcing. So,
Very good. Everybody wants to be a broadcaster. I don't know for the life of me why,
you know, you're having an effect on me. I'm starting to
but
announce.
I
other
told you,
places.
once it gets in your blood, man, it's hard to get out.
Yeah.
So what are we doing in the great outdoors here in mid-May? What's the hot thing?
Today, our topic is fish on.
Fish on. You mean
Fish
the
on.
fish are on?
That,
You-
and when the bite happens offshore, they say fish on.
Fish on. Well, you
Right.
heard me talking earlier about my days of dropping a line in Buck Swamp. Not often.
Still
wasn't-
wondering about that striped bass.
No,
in
it
Buck
wasn't a
Swamp,
striped
but,
bass.
you know,
It was something. It wasn't a very pretty fish.
Huh.
I'll come up with the name of it. My buddy Big Ed, he would know the name of it.
Wasn't a mudfish, though.
Something similar. It's not something
Something
you would
similar.
take home to cook.
A
Okay.
jackfish? Lots of teeth?
Yeah, a lot of bones. A lot of bones.
That's a jackfish.
Yeah, a lot of bones. It
That's
wasn't a very
jackfish.
attractive fish as fish go.
That would be a jackfish.
What is the most beautiful fish in your opinion, just in terms of appearance?
Ooh,
The most beautiful.
we're going to talk about tonight. Dolphin.
The dolphin is the
The
most
mahi
beautiful
mahi,
fish.
not the bottlenose dolphin, but
Mhm.
your offshore dolphin.
Yeah.
They are absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful,
Mhm.
brilliant yellow, green, blues. They flash, they actually fluoresce
Mm.
in the water.
In terms of freshwater fish.
Freshwater fish, ooh, hard to beat a red breast.
Oh, really?
Just beautiful colors. We can get a red breast out of black water, that deep, dark blue color they have, just almost black.
How about a
and red.
largemouth bass? Especially when that thing's jacked wide
You know,
open.
I got friends that are great. They're huge about bass. I'm a brim guy. I love a red breast. I love a good, pretty bluegill.
Mhm.
Lots of colors on them. Those pretty fish.
All right. The phone number here, if you have a question or comment regarding the great outdoors here in South Carolina for Captain Downer, is 800-956-7266. We also take your questions, comments via email, talkback@sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter at sportstalksc. We know that there are thousands of fisher people around the state of South Carolina
Lots of
this
fishermen.
time of the year.
Absolutely.
I'm fisher people, trying to be in this politically correct world.
I understand.
Fisher people.
I understand.
Of course, I guess, fishermen.
Fishermen and women.
Does that go both ways?
Absolutely
Yeah.
it does.
So women do not mind being called fishermen.
I don't think so.
You wouldn't call them fisher women.
Doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right. Yeah, a lot of things don't sound right. but
Fisherman
we have to
doesn't
say
just mean men, for sure. There are plenty of female anglers out there who love the sport, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And fishing is something you can get your girlfriend to do a lot faster than going hunting.
Really
Well, fishing is a lot more of an entrance into the outdoors than
Mhm.
hunting.
calmer.
Hunting can be, cold. They can't go wear a bathing suit.
Well, now,
I
have
can
you
talk-
seen?
I can talk-
Have you seen the commercial for FarmersOnly.com? Yeah,
I don't.
You know what FarmersOnly.com is?
Sure,
It's a dating site for farmers.
I have seen that
Yeah.
commercial.
And then one of them is
Yeah,
about
yeah,
fishing, and the guy's out there on the boat, and the gal's complaining all the time about,
Oh, yeah.
and gets rid of her and finds himself a farmer's daughter.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, again, it's not hard to talk a lady out in the boat. She can wear a bathing suit.
Plus, if you're out in the middle of the water, she's
You
stuck
can get
with you,
She can get a suntan and she can fish.
and she's
It's
stuck with
easy.
you.
Or they can read a book and do whatever they want. I mean, it's good. It's good. Women like to be in the sun.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Put on that suntan.
I know most men that love
Put on
women
that suntan lotion.
most men like women being in the sun.
Mm. Now, are fishermen as stubborn as golfers when it comes to skincare in the sun
Absolutely.
and wearing?
I think all of us today now are more conscious of the sun than ever before.
Mhm.
I never worried about getting in the sun when I was little or younger or getting in a boat. And today now you're putting suntan lotion on before you can go outside.
Mm-hmm.
Just more conscious of it.
Yeah. Let's jump to the lines, and we'll get into some more details about fishing around the state and
Sure.
fishing offshore and things of that nature. By the way, it's over at Clemson. College of Charleston does beat the Tigers this afternoon, 11-4. We're going to go to Terrence in Charleston. First up here on SC Wild with Captain Billy Downer tonight. Hello, Terrence.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good, sir. What's on your mind?
Hey, go Cougars. I just was calling to say, talk a little bit about fishing on the Eddystone River.
Go right ahead.
It's an awesome fishery for red breast and bass and brim and rockfish. But red breast and bass are loaded.
No doubt. And
And,
not a lot of places like that anymore left where you can go catch some good red breast. It's hard to find.
No,
something.
there really aren't. And it's an awesome, fun fight to catch them too. There.
Is there a
They're
particular particular area of the river that you prefer, that you find?
He's not going to tell you that.
Oh, you're not going to give your secrets away.
Of course he's not.
I don't mind telling you. I mean, if you can get your boat in there in the summertime when it gets down to 1.5 feet, there aren't many people that can do it. So, I don't mind telling you. It's right up around Kennedy's.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That stretch from Kennedy's down kind of, probably 15
My son
miles.
likes to float that section. They do it every year.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Hey, I wanted to give a quick guess to that fish you were talking about. You thought you caught earlier. It's probably a mudfish.
That's what I try to tell
Yeah,
you.
he said
It's a
mudfish, but it's
or a jackfish.
Yeah,
It's one of the two.
I'm still trying to come up with the actual name that we had for it. It's
not a striper.
Bowfin?
It's a pretty ugly fish, and it was real bony, and we threw it. No, a shiner. That's what it is. Shiner.
Oh, my.
There you go.
Shiners,
Yeah, a
okay.
shiner. Yeah,
I got you.
shiners. You ever caught a shiner?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
They're
all we
pretty
know.
nasty.
They infiltrate a pond.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all taking the call.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for calling
you for
in.
calling.
Have a great
Yeah.
one.
Yep. Old Buck Swamp, full of shiners. All right, let's go to where we're going next there, Miss Carson. John in Ruby. Yeah, John and Ruby, our old buddy. John, how you doing?
Doing good, man. I talk more than football.
I can tell. Good to have you with us. Good to have you back on the show.
Thank you. I'm figuring that this will be the month to hit the full moon for the brim bed and everything. But what I really want to ask Captain Downer about was the feral hog situation, especially in the upstate of South Carolina, and armadillos. From everything I read, armadillos are supposedly the next thing that's coming in after the fire ants and the coyotes and all like that and everything. And I'm just going to hang up from here and clear the line up and see what he has to say about it. And thank you for your time. And
Thank you.
Sure.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
one.
calling.
Armadillos.
Let's start with armadillos first.
Yeah.
The possum on the half shell, people call them.
Possum on the
Possum on the
half
half
shell.
shell. Armadillos, for a lot of folks, they think they're relatively new. They've been in our state since the late 80s, early 90s. They started coming across the Savannah River in Aiken County that I remember back in the early 90s. They are invasive, of course. They dig holes and things. They're not supposed to be here, but yet they're here now. I don't know yet what kind of environmental impact they may have. But feral hogs, whole nother story.
Mhm.
They are here and they're here to stay. We've done a lot of things to try to minimize their impact, but quite frankly, the only way to control feral hogs is to remove them by trapping, by again shooting them. We've opened the season up on hogs pretty much year round. There's not, there's not really a season on hogs right now though. From the end of February through July, through the end of June, there is a program you can call in, sign up, and you can take hogs out on private property during the nighttime with a firearm, with a light. So we've basically opened up, no holds barred as far as on trying to control the hogs. Because again, they're not part of our native population. People may think, well, that's bad for the hog. Well, they're not supposed to be here. And they are destructive. They tear up fields. They cause, they literally dig chasms in areas, rooting, destroying the natural plant life, destroying fields, crops, that thing. They're extremely destructive. So absolutely, there are several ways to utilize to control hogs. As far as armadillos, I'm not sure we know where we are yet with what destruction they're going to cause.
All right. Thank you for your phone call. 800-956-7266. We're talking fishing. We're talking great outdoors here in South Carolina. SC Wild here on Sports Talk with the captain, Billy Downer. Back in a moment.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
And we're brought to you by the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird and the preservation of our hunting heritage. Join the NWTF. Find out how at nwtf.org/rise and fly. Captain Billy Downer in the house. Let's get back to the phones. We're going to talk some more fishing here in a moment. Bob over in Saluda with us next here on SC Wild on Sports Talk. Hello, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Good to have you. Yes,
taking
sir.
my call this evening.
Absolutely.
Question for you now, Captain Downer. What are the rules on sinking brush piles in the lake? Is there any laws against that?
Not that I'm aware of. We get those questions kind of on an annual basis.
What is this question again?
Well, he's asking about, and we're going to have to educate
me.
Yes, we have to educate Phil. So stand by, Bob. We're going to educate.
Yeah, educate.
Brush piles are creating habitat structure under the water for fish to congregate around.
Okay.
Crappie, for instance. Most people do brush piles for crappie.
Okay.
Crappie's a flatfish. Again, one of my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Other than bass, I like flatfish.
Okay.
So crappie piles, people go take their old Christmas trees and sink them with blocks, tie several together and sink them. It creates structure under the water and creates bedding areas or areas that fish will congregate
Isn't
around.
that kind of the same thing that the mafia used to do up in New York with concrete? And that's people. I'm sorry.
That's right, people, not but yes, the answer would be it depends on the lake. I don't know of any regulations on the lake to keep you from doing that. It depends. All of our lakes are run by some type of power authority. One of the your power companies, SCNG, Santee Cooper, Duke Energy, these kind of things. So it depends on what their rules are, but I don't know of anywhere where they don't allow you to put brush piles down. I have not heard anything against that.
You got any pointers on good places to sink them?
Hey, that would be the $10 million question. And if you know the answer to that, you can catch every fish. But I would say definitely looking for ridges, your ridge lines, if you know where your ridges are, where you don't have structure already. On a lot of lakes where you may have stumps and things like that, you don't want to put structure because there's already structure there. So finding a place where there's a ridge or something where you can put structure so you can find it again also. That's the other problem, is trying to find your brush pile after you put it down. But that's the secret. But thanks for the question. Good question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. Educating me. I was just up at Lake Greenwood last week.
Sure.
To play golf at Stony Point. You know Stony Point?
Yep.
Lake Greenwood. Now, that's a beautiful looking lake, that whole area. How is it for fishing?
All those lakes up there are better for certain fish than other lakes. Like Lake Marion, lower part, the lower lake, Lake Moultrie, they're good for brim, they're good for bass, catfish. Greenwood out there, they've still got some white bass in some areas up there. They've got trout, and some of those upper, not necessarily Greenwood, but other lakes in the upstate have trout. We don't have that, so a little bit different fishery, but it's still good. They've got striped bass as well. They've got crappie and some might call them crappie.
Crappie.
We tend to call them crappie where I'm from, but anyway.
It really is kind of a bad name for a fish. Couldn't they come up with a better name for that fish than crappie?
Yeah.
Couldn't they call it?
They call them crappie.
Yeah. Where'd that come from? I mean, why is it called crappie?
I have no idea. That's a good question. I will look that up. Next time we do this, I'll come back with an answer.
I mean, you got beautiful name for fish. Trout, flounder.
How's trout a beautiful name?
I just think the trout
just rolls off your tongue
better.
better.
Just sounds good, but crappie just doesn't, because the word crappie is
sounds
used.
Crappie.
Yeah, it's used in our regular lingo, and it doesn't carry a nice denotation.
Well, let's hit the saltwater for a minute.
Go right ahead.
We missed that. Saltwater fishing report. The speckled trout is the fish to talk about. It is strong. Your saltwater trout, I'm hearing lots of 5-pound trout being caught. That's 20-inch or better fish.
Wow.
Super fish there. My source was telling me live shrimp is the best. Hadrill's Point Tackle in Charleston cannot keep live shrimp in their bait tanks. They get them once a week. They get them on Thursdays, I think, and by the afternoon, it's gone. So people are fishing like mad in Charleston area for the speckled trout. Of course, you can use artificial DOA shrimp, Berkeley gulp shrimp, Z-Man jerk baits. trout typically congregate, the saltwater trout, on your shell banks, shell rakes and things, into the creeks where the water's coming in and out of different creeks. Again, 10 per day, 14-inch minimum on trout. The flounder bite is getting better.
Mhm.
It's going to continue to get better as the weather warms up. Not necessarily because of that, just this time of year, trout, the flounder begin to come in. Again, flounder size limits 14 inches minimum, 15 per day or 30 per boat. Spanish mackerel, new one on the off coast. The Sergeant Angus McBride's telling me Spanish mackerel are showing up just outside the surf zone on the beaches and outside the inlets. Trolling with Clark spoon, silver or gold, and throwing live bait to them. Good set of eyes, binoculars to look for the birds. It's how you find those schools, but the Spanish mackerel are here. A lot of folks like to fish for those.
Okay, hang on. We'll come back. A few more words from Captain Billy Downer, this edition of SC Wild on Sports Talk. Be right back.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
All right, final couple of minutes here of SC Wild, presented by the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird, the preservation of our hunting heritage. Join the NWTF. Go to nwtf.org/riseandfly. Also brought to you by the South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. So you have looked up the
I have looked it up, and here
origination
is the
of crappie.
origin of the word crappie
For a fish.
which in here, by the way, it says pronounced crop-e, which is not correct.
Yeah.
Anyway, comes from the French-Canadian phrase crêpe de soleil, which means sunfish.
Okay.
That's all I can
That's
give you.
it.
That's all I
That's
can
it.
give you.
All right, give me some
Hey,
saltwater
Let
knowledge.
me give you a big update. We just had a regulation change on cobia. A lot of folks on the coast, there's a lot of fisherwomen that
Fisher
fish for
people.
cobia on our coast, and because the recruitment's been so bad, that species, as far as the young fish coming in, May 1st to May 31st is catch and release only. You cannot keep them at all. May 1st, May 31st, catch and release only in South Carolina waters, south of Jeremy Inlet and Edisto Island. Okay. June 20th this year through December 31st, the fishery will be closed in state and federal waters. completely closed come June 20th.
Okay.
But it's catch and release only below Jeremy Inlet and Edisto Island. It's a change. Again, because their numbers are so low, it's been a little bit of a scare for our biologists, fisheries biologists, to try to figure out what we can do to keep the cobia around for years to come.
We have the Governor's Cup Billfish Tournament coming up.
Yes, kicks off at Toller's Cove Marina with the Carolina Billfish Classic. Again, higher end fishermen, a lot of fishermen, fisherwomen out there, bigger boats to go out. You're going off 45, 60 miles off to the Gulf Stream, blue water.
Catching some very big stuff.
Dolphin bite is smoking. My good friend Jim Shelton's probably listening in from the Charleston area, told me that dolphin bite is smoking. He said he can't afford to go, but his brother-in-law can.
Okay.
And he's listened to his report. So been strong. Weed lines are few. Smooth water's hard to find. Today was slow, but the bite has been generally strong. Also, wahoo and tuna. My friend Boo Gray did not catch many dolphin today. Talked to him on the way back in. He's from Orangeburg, but they did catch a sailfish, and they're flying their flag. When you catch a billfish, you get to fly a flag.
Really?
On the way in, everybody gets to see, hey, they caught a billfish.
Fantastic. Anything else you want to leave us with the next 15 seconds?
You know what? Quick tidbits. Just make sure when you're out there boating, be safe. Make sure you got your life jackets. Make sure they fit everybody on board. And make sure that they're where you can get to them and they're in good condition. File a float plan is as simple as telling somebody where you're going to go and when you plan to return.
And the shiners are biting like crazy at Buck Swamp. So if you're interested, check it out. Thank you, Captain Downer. Great seeing you. Thanks for the calls. Thank you, Carson Mason. Great job. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for being with us on Sports Talk. We'll see you tomorrow.